Hi guys, Joseph here. Today I'd like to tell you about how you can be more flexible in achieving your goals. You see, many people give up at the first hurdle. In fact, many people give up because they have an unwillingness to adapt to their environment, to change their environment, or change how they act and react in their environment. Now, the first thing we need to understand is this. The person with the most flexibility in their environment will begin to achieve the desires that they want. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if we have someone who's very rigid in terms of going for their goal, but maybe they just do the exact same behavior continuously and they keep getting the same result of a no, then they're never going to get to where they want to be. In fact, don't they say that the definition of madness is doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? So ultimately, we've got to think that, okay, I have to be flexible in my environment. I've got to adjust myself to be able to evolve ultimately. And when we think about that, the reason why we're here today is because we've managed to evolve in our environment all the way back in the past generations. All before us, they had to adapt, and we're adapting right now. But I want you to evolve on a conscious level and an unconscious level, where you become more flexible in how you think, how you behave. So once again, the person with the most flexibility will begin to achieve what they want no matter what the environment. If it's about a financial economy, which it's getting better, but it's not that good, people are still adapting to that and, you could say, winning and being successful in it. Some people could have had many bad relationships, but they can turn things around and become more flexible in their behavior to choose the right person. So it's really about not the outside world around us. I don't really care for what my environment says. I've had bad environments in the past, and I'm sure I will have some in the future. What I really care about is how I react in my environment. What do I do personally to make me move from where I am to where I want to be? So we've got to really develop flexibility in our behavior. So rather just doing the exact same thing, we want to be able to think about it as for every so-called failure is a learning. So number one, we can just say generally that number one is, just say let's be our flexibility or flexible. Okay, so the first one is flexible. Oh, you can't even see that. Let me adjust it for you. So the first one is really being flexible in our environment. We've got to have that in the core front of our mind. So the next part is that rather just doing the one action, the one thing, and then thinking, oh, that's it, I'm giving up, we need to learn from that situation. So we ask ourselves, what can I learn from this behavior which isn't working that once learned will allow me to do something else? So what can I learn from this? How can I do things differently? And notice my words there. How can I do things differently? Not why it didn't work, or why did I fail, or why is the world giving me this bad hand? Because those whys give us reasons to stay how we are. They give us reasons and excuses almost to stay where we are. So we want to have a reframe on that and think, okay, if I'm doing this behavior and it's not working out, rather perceiving it as a failure and blaming myself or others, I need to ask myself how I can learn. So I'm just going to put brackets there. How can I learn from that? How can I get better? Or how can I do things differently? Because when you think about it, if we're just doing the one behavior and it's not working, and once we've learned from it, the second part would be is to take action. So let's write take action there. And by action, I always go by a massive and inspired. You see, when we take massive and inspired action, we feel magnetized to go for it. We feel inspired on the inside. It doesn't feel like it's a chore. So we need to be able to think of it, okay, did this, didn't work, I'm learning from it, and now I'm considering how I can be different in the future. And bear in mind this, by the way, more often than not, life and the things we go for is a numbers game. It's very much like in sales. Just because the person says no to whatever you're selling, you shouldn't just then think, I'm going to just put all my time and energy in trying to convince them and convert them into a yes. What I like to do in business, if someone's not interested in my product or what I do, I'm just going to learn from it, maybe adjust my product, and also go on to the next person who actually would get value out of my product. So we've got to think about it in a sales point of view, as an analogy, that we've got to move on to the next one. So for every no that you get, or for every so-called failure, we need to think, well, what can I learn from this and what can I do different in the next time? How can I do things different and what else can I do? That means for every no that we get or every perceived failure we get, we are then generating alternative behaviors which will allow us to grow. You see, we have to become far more flexible in achieving our goals. We have to be far more adaptable in our environment because, once again, the person with the most flexibility will begin to achieve what they desire in their environment. So there is a time process there. But I really believe if we become flexible by learning and asking that how question rather than why, and also taking massive and inspired action, we are going to transform our results. When you think about it, what we do on the inside of us and how we process information will dictate the results we're getting. So we need to be far more flexible in our behavior. The other part is that we must really, I mean, you could say, if there's a big goal, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but sometimes, if we just put here number 4, we have this big goal right here, and it's huge, and we think, well, I'm only just here. How am I meant to make that massive leap to get there? Now, usually more often than not, it overwhelms us to the point where we think, well, that's it, I'm not going to go for it. So maybe you want to earn $1 million, or maybe you want to be able to start up your own business, but the thought of it, at first, because to you it may be such a big goal, no matter what goal it is, if it's big to you, it's big to you, you think, I can't do that. Or it's so overwhelming, you think, oh, it's better to stay where I am. So what we've got to do is consider, rather than taking the big goal, we want to be able to think of what are some intermediate steps which will move us to the big goal. You see, the small steps we take, I mean, we can, yes, take massive inspired action, but it's the consistent steps that we take will begin to allow us to move forward, and therefore we don't self-sabotage, we don't get overwhelmed, because now we're breaking things down that maybe this could be over a period of time right here. So it could be over a period of time, we're adding to our behavior, we're getting bigger and stronger, and we're learning from it. So in overall, we're becoming far more flexible. So I mean, if you think about this as well, number 5, maybe our goal is where we are is here and the goal is here. Now usually more people will try to consider it as going straight here. But at times, I don't know if you notice this, I know I have myself, I will go off my target, or I will get, something will happen in my life and I will have to create a detour to my goal. So as things happen, we tend to go off course, just like this, to go toward our goal. So sometimes, yes, don't worry about it. Sometimes we'll go straight forward to our goal, but sometimes we'll have to go back and forth onto our goal. I heard this about a plane. I don't know if it is true, so forgive me if it's not. But on a plane, they're not really meant to be on track the majority of the time, or some of the time. They have to keep on readjusting on their course. Now, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's other things happening, but they're constantly readjusting themselves toward their goal. They're constantly going toward their goal, but always readjusting. So if things happen to us, we got to then go back to flexibility and ask ourselves, how can I do things differently? And then take more action and these subtle steps taking us forward, which will allow us to move forward in time, allow us to keep growing as a person. Because it's not about just doing the one action, it's about doing a multitude of actions. I mean, one thing I always consider is, what 5 things can I do this week? Or more specifically, what 5 things can I do today, which will move me closer to the goal? So we're really moving ourselves forward. We're not getting stuck on just the big goal. If we come off course, we're getting back on course. At the end of the day, it's all a journey. We're here to really learn and to grow. You're watching this because you made a decision to commit to yourself, to learn from, and really go for whatever goal that you desire. But when you have this in your mind, you'll begin to allow yourself to be stronger. You'll be able to think, yes, this happened, maybe not how I wanted it to happen, or I didn't want this to happen, but now I'm going to have to adjust my behavior to get back on track. So the more we learn, the more we grow, the more flexible we become, and the more able we are to achieve our desired outcome. And now the real last one I want to just say is that we have to be, or I should say, we have to take responsibility. Now, if you know me, I really believe in responsibility is one of the biggest things we can take. So I've got to assume control over my life. I believe that I can take all responsibility for my life to make the changes happen. So taking responsibility is really the key in making it all happen. So the more that I assume responsibility for my life, the more I'm able to take responsibility for my behaviors and the results that I get. I really believe that we're in charge of our minds. We just got to get in connection with ourselves, apply learnings, apply processes, get the knowledge and wisdom we need to make the changes. So rather than being a product of life, you allow life to be a product that you choose to create. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. Many thanks and goodbye.